and gentlemen, welcome back to the EUS Challenger Series number 11. I hope I didn't hear some strange things coming down one or other of the microphones then, but regardless, I am Spuddington. I'm going to be joined by Pulse. This is Copenhagen Wolves versus Dignitas UK in a best of 5 final. Pulse, how are you doing?
Going pretty well. There's some odd sound coming from my household, so I'm going to maybe have to leave in a second. But looking forward to this game because Copenhagen Wolves versus Dignitas, who have changed their AD carry lineup very recently. And is that really annoying? Because I will go and make sure that doesn't come through.
It is a little bit noticeable. Might be better if I just speak, if I just monologuington for you for a while. But you know, presumably someone is. I actually I have no idea what that sound could be. It sounded like someone was attacking some silver foil. But regardless, Shen and Evelyn being banned out by Copenhagen Wolves straight off the bat. Keeping an eye on the games from yesterday. Dignitas UK running that exact combo with extreme effectiveness in the first game, and indeed a similar composition in the third and second game. So not too surprised to see those bans coming out. They're strong champions in their own right. The Lee Sin ban coming out and the Elise on top of that means we have got some kind of interesting things left open here, because Copenhagen Wolves, much as ever, have got, you know, Mr. Reckless on their team, who is a very, very strong AD carry player. If he is allowed generally to get his Vayne, get his Ezreal, he's generally considered unstoppable, but it seems like Dig UK are just going to let him have one or other of those champions, and Pulse is now apparently back. I'll just let you know what the bans are: Shen, Evelyn, Thresh, Lee Sin, Elise, and waiting on the last one from Dig UK.
Awesome, I just had to exercise some demons from my household, that's where I was, so yeah, you should be able to believe that story. So Shen, Evelyn, Thresh, again, these look like blanket bans, and I think I just caught the tail end of what you were saying. Banning out Shen and Evelyn as well, disrupt that combo that we actually saw yesterday from Dignitas UK, where they went with that sort of picking composition, also with a strong initiate from the Shen and Evelyn. And by banning out both of those, it essentially removes all possibilities from them even remotely going anything near that type of composition, and they look so strong in it, so it makes sense to put them into something they're less comfortable with, or that they're strong with, but isn't what their their main tactic is so far. Because we saw another composition from them in the second game, in fact, Wellington, where they lost, and they went for a more conventional AoE composition with Jarvan and Sona, and it just didn't work out because they couldn't win out the laning phase. So we'll see how they shape up against Copenhagen Wolves, because Wolves recently have actually gone for very strong laning phases and just gone very all in for the team fights.
Yeah, and they've been team fighting just really, really well, all as a team, moving together, getting the right people in the right places, and initiating well. Shook's been doing a lot of good work, Unlimited's been doing a lot of good work, and indeed, I am noticing now we have Countard back with them, so no longer using the sub Exila, for which they were for the majority of this Challenger Series. So if anything, Copenhagen Wolves are now back up to full strength, unless the holiday has done something to Countard's brain, which is unlikely, although alcohol does tend to come with holidays sometimes, but, you know, hospitalization, I don't think anything happened. But regardless, Countard will probably be regretting the lack of his Lissandra pick, but well, sometimes other people take it away from you.
Indeed, and with the full lineup, of course, they have the same sort of synergy they did beforehand, and we haven't actually seen Countard at all during this tournament, or indeed the last one either, and yet they still did well. So with the full lineup in the mix, and Samwise being a current sub and a trial for Dignitas UK, a slight bit of team synergy might come through, and that's what we've really seen from Copenhagen Wolves. And the other thing is, we were saying to each other whether it was the fact that they had the sub for mid lane, which changed their team composition, so we'll see what they actually pick out, because before they were going for more all-in aggressive picks in their own lanes, and before that we saw them going for basically protect their Reckless comps, getting him fed and bringing him into that mid-late game. So we'll see what they bring out, and it does look like they'll be hovering over the Vayne, which indeed wasn't banned out, and the Lee Sin ban was targeted against Shook, so they didn't have that luxury. So interesting, very interesting pick so far.
Yeah, Vayne, Nami, a very, very strong lane. Early on, maybe a little bit weak due to the Vayne's general weakness at that stage of the game, but Nami a fairly strong early support and scales very well as well. So I expect we'll see some serious, it's going to be difficult in this situation to shut Reckless down. And what Dignitas UK are going to pick against that, I really, really don't know. They may look to go for the 2v1 swap up, go for the Aatrox in that 1v2, who does fairly well in that setup. And then you have something like a Caitlyn and then hopefully a fairly strong pushing support in that top lane, looking to get really pushing and not allow Reckless to farm up, not allow any of that to kind of get underway for Copenhagen Wolves. But indeed, seeing the Caitlyn possibly being picked out, they have certainly hovered over it. 9 more seconds to go, but Pulse, I'll say if they lock it in.
Alright, so Aatrox for sure, and Aatrox in the top lane, or even the jungle. We did see that from Impaler the other day, I think, and Aatrox has very good ganking capability because he has lockup with his Dark Flight, and then his slow, which is generally what he likes to max, the Blaze of Torment. Also great damage as well, and for 5% of his HP, very efficient. So we could see him maxing that in the jungle, and indeed could be the top lane, but from Dignitas I'd expect it to be from that jungle. Of course we've seen Darian from Gambit take him top lane, but there's not that many Aatrox players.
No, and it's worth noting, however, if they are able to get that 1v2, it's gonna mean they're still gonna be having to deal with Young Buck on Renekton, his favorite champion. With that Jarvan jungle, there is serious potential for the 2v2 jungler and top laner to actually end up beating the 2-on-2 of the AD carry and support from Dig UK. Renekton Jarvan just gives you so much early damage and CC that you could just jump on either, Yero on that Zyra, or not Cook myself, because he will not be playing AD carry, Samwise on Caitlyn, in order to just get that burst, get that kill. And if they get that kill, Renekton can easily snowball ahead, can actually, if he gets far enough ahead, or 1v2 very efficiently.
So in the chat we've had a poll to see who chat believes will win this game, and currently Copenhagen Wolves have 5 times the vote of Dignitas on 60 to 12. So definitely Wolves are the crowd favourite. And honestly, through picks as well, I actually really like Wolves' lineup, because Dignitas, I don't know if it's a combination of not doing the amount of research that they needed, or the fact that they just figured the Lee Sin ban would be enough. But I don't think they necessarily needed to ban out Elise. Yes, he's a strong character, but there's also other, there's other things you can pick against that, and also the Zed as well. It's strong, but when you have something like Reckless's Vayne, and you also have Youngbucks for an X on there, allowing them to have not only the very strong early game, the ganking potential, and then essentially top netting not even being essentially a non-factor for Wolves. They just need to maybe gank it once, and then they can deal with the rest of the map. There's too much on the board, honestly, that Dignitas have to deal with. And while the composition is strong, and it has decent roaming potential, they'd have to outplay Wolves really hard to deal with that composition.
They do, however, have the Twisted Fate, the Lissandra. They've got a lot of roaming potential, so we'll see if Dig UK can take advantage of that mobility. But as you say, as the game goes on, Copenhagen Wolves have a history of doing incredibly well in team fights, and if they get off to a good start, then you're really in trouble. But regardless, we will be going into a quick commercial break while we wait for the delay timer to tick down, so we will just see you in 1 or 2 seconds.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the first game we have today of the best of 5 in the grand finals of EUS Challenger Series number 11 between Copenhagen Wolves and Dignitas UK. I am Pulse and I'm joined by Spuddington. How's it going?
Pretty decent, and we may see some aggression coming out here early on. Dignitas UK, as we mentioned in Champion Select, we probably think they are going to need to take some early advantages if they want to win out in these games. Copenhagen Wolves, very strong late game comp and also a very strong late game team fighting team. They work very well together. And Dig UK are starting this off with an invasion on the enemy jungle. They have been warded out. And it does look like Shook will be taking some revenge there, going to the enemy red buff. And indeed, it's looking like both teams are just going to exchange them here. So we'll see how this works out. But a lot of deep wards going to be coming out. And I'm not really sure who's going to take the advantage from this.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the next play is from both of these teams. Whether Wolves will actually go back. Of course, Renekton's recalling. In fact, it seems like they might be swapping up the Vayne and Nami lane into the top lane. It's not just going to be 1v2ing most likely from the state of the recalls so far. And trading out these red buffs, they are sitting directly on top of ward if they want to try and disrupt it. They might even send Ahri across just to try and disrupt the red take. But it looks like Kaltar's just going to wait in the mid lane, so they know they're there, they know they're going to take the red buff. And I'm interested in seeing what Shook's next move is. He might go for the blue, or he might go for his own.
Well, you can see he actually pinged out, and I think Nitrix is going to ward across. Ooh, that's an unfortunate one there, but he can still place a pretty accurate guess as to where Shook is right now. He'll see him, I think, maybe as he goes past. Vision mechanics are a little bit funky in League of Legends, and that ward was very unfortunate there by Nitrix. But they can still place a very, very accurate guess that Shook is indeed, or did indeed, start at his own, at his opponent's red, and we'll move on to his blue now. So yeah, that's going to be okay. Both sides just swapping it up, neither side really taking much of advantage, and both are also going to know what the other guy has done. So who do you really feel at this point, Pulse, is going to be the stronger ganking jungler?
Well, both of them are exceptionally strong in the early game. Aatrox haven't seen too much in the jungle, but Darkflight coupled with Blades of Torment is such strong early gank potential, and he has a lot of damage built into his kit, even at this stage in the game. Blood Price is actually an extra 90 damage on top of his auto attacks on the third hit. That's actually very significant. So, especially with the red buff, he can not only slow and keep on top of someone, he can completely shut someone down. Top lane Nitrix takes some hits. This lane swap up might hurt them a lot. Impaler's going to have to get this gank to work out. Wait, it actually locks in the blue card. Cook my sock. Doesn't work out. Impaler's following up. They might be able to pick up this kill, but the slice and dice coming in doesn't connect the Dark Flight right in the center. The gold card comes out, but too little too late. Youngbuck escapes. However, it might be enough to shove him out of lane, with Impaler taking most of the hit. Shook looking for the counter gank.
Blue card mechanics, so unfortunate, but Impaler is recalling in this brush. He is very low on health, but has the passive available. Shook couldn't really focus him down, but Cook My Sock could be vulnerable himself. Youngbuck is baiting this out. We've got the flash gold card, but Shook is in from the side. Darkflight comes in, and Cook My Sock is being slowly burned down here. Popping that barrier, he's got his own gold card right back up again, but no mana, and he cannot make anything happen here. First blood comes down for Shook, and the second kill also going to Shook. That is disastrous.
Disastrous, and I can't even stress how bad this is for Dignitas UK. Because what we were discussing during the break is the fact if they don't win this during laning phase, they probably just lose the game. Because yes, they have great roaming potential in the form of Nitrix and Cook My Sock. That's really good. Early ganking jungler of what I assume is Aatrox, and Yarrow and Samwise have great pushing potential. They've set themselves up for the early game, and they've set themselves up for snowballing. However, Copenhagen Wolves just have the most amazing team fight in the world. They have great scaling in the form of Reckless's Vayne, and in team fights we know they're mechanically amazing. To pick up early kills as well, that's just put Dignitas behind. They're going to have to pick up huge amounts of kills, massive objective takes in the next couple of minutes, because on paper, they shouldn't be able to win team fights. They can outmaneuver them, but we've seen from their decision making, it's a little bit iffy. But Yarrow gets initiated on by Shook. Grasping Root's already used. More damage comes out from Kaltar. Takes some punishment from Samwise. They're saving Grace as their mid lane right now.
Yeah, and Coutard is very, very low on that health. Shook getting aggressive here, and indeed, he's probably right to do so given how much of an early head start he's had with those 2 kills. But Samwise is going to continue to push this out. Ahri is going to have to go back. Shook should be able to cover it. should be able to clear those waves decently okay, but compared to this top lane, I think Vayne is not going to be able to push as hard as the Caitlyn. Although, given the nature of a longer lane, it is actually easier to build up a big creep wave by freezing and then kind of shove that big wave all at once to push much, much harder and make it much, much harder to clear out. Regardless though, Shook clearing out that mid, Vayne continuing to push top, and it looks like both the junglers are actually kind of covering for their team right now.
Yeah, I mean, for now, at least they pushed someone out of their lane, and by having that Caitlyn and Zyra lane mid, they will be able to do that against Kaltod. As soon as he gets level 6, though, they could go for those 2 versus 2 ganks, with Shook coming in with the Cataclysm, followed up by Spirit Rush, and that should be enough damage to deal with both of those champions. And that's, again, difficult for Dignitas. They need to try and take this tower before they hit that damage curve, because as soon as they do, they'll be either pushed out or killed, and then they'll take another advantage mid. So it's really just looking to try and make objectives happen very early on, but Wolves are covering themselves very, very well indeed.
Yeah, and that can be, like, as we mentioned, a very serious problem. Dignitas do, I think, need to be making early plays. They've got that early pushing power, they've got that early roaming power, and although Cook My Sock has not yet hit level 6, that is going to be when they really have to start making stuff happen. Right now, yes, they're not doing quite as well as they'd like, but it's not like, you know, writing on the wall. They're not doomed because they can't do it. If they get to a point where TF hits 6, you've got Lissandra at 6, and they're just not able to make kills happen, they get stymied when they go for ganks, that is going to pretty much be spelling the doom of Dignitas UK. However, at the moment, still not looking good. They should be okay, as long as they can get that Twisted Fate to 6 without being murdered by Renekton.
Yeah, and then it's that window of opportunity for Dignitas. But take a look at mid-game. You have Caitlyn, who is kind of a parabolic power curve champion, strong in the mid-game, strong in the early game, not so strong in the mid-game, and then strong in the late game again. And Nitrix, of course, will be strong in Lissandra. AP carries, of course, spike in the mid. Lissandra has great utility when it comes to late game anyway. Twisted Fate is fairly decent in the roaming phase because of the mobility he has. Shook looking for the gank in the mid lane. Good Duke up away with 90 caliber net. Can't commit the Cataclysm. Grasping Roots whiffs as well. So the mid game isn't spectacular, but they can still make plays. However, the Wolves have the opportunity to carry on farming, so it will make it even harder. They still have a chance in mid game, but they can't let it go to late.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. It's never over till the fat lady sings, as they say. But
Do we have one?
You're obsessed with the fat lady. No, but regardless, in fact, Aatrox is looking for this gank on bottom lane. Cook My Sock locking in the gold card this time, as opposed to his typical blue. And in fact, it's worth noting that gank before, where he locked in the blue card, that was complete disaster. They would have probably killed Renekton there, and that would have given Cook My Sock an XP advantage, would have then meant the double kill would not have gone to Shook, because you wouldn't have had anything to gank. So actually that single mistake, that single mechanical error has actually cost them really, really dearly there. But regardless, Samwise continue to push this in the mid, but it's notable that Ari has now reached a point where she seems to be able to just clear the waves, and they aren't able to get anything really done off this, whereas top lane Nitrix still doesn't seem to have quite the same wave clear, or even he's at least very, very threatened by Reckless and doesn't dare go far enough forward to just clear that out. Nitrix going aggressive into...
Yep, you cut yourself off there again, and I didn't catch the end of it. So yeah, in the
Yeah.
mid lane, yeah. So Kaltard again has the wave clear of the Deception, as you mentioned, and the main thing I'm looking at right now is the fact that Nitrix, their roaming champion, along with Twisted Fate, are both suppressed in their lanes. This is really bad for them, because if they can't get out and roam to actually use their composition, because we've already spoken about their roaming capability in the early game, in the laning phase that they need to utilize, if they can't get out of their lanes because they're being suppressed, then they can't get kills. And because it's 2 versus 1 lane, that's kind of what you expect. But Twisted Fate versus Renekton, who can push out the wave very quickly as well, and essentially he's also winning the lane because Cook My Sock can't even get close. Now Shook's also looking for a kill, so there's no way he can get out. Kaltod takes some damage in mid. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again because it's still relevant that the mid game is their saving grace. If they can carry on pushing, I hold that fort though because Destiny's popped in the bot lane because he's currently being taken down. Cataclysm comes out, locks them in the circle. Doesn't even matter though, the Ignite ticks down. Impaler picks up the kill onto Unlimited, now falling into Reckless as well. So much damage went on to Nitrix, 1-for-1 trade overall, top for bottom.
That's probably going to spell the end of that bottom tower. Shook and Youngbuck will take that down, whereas the cat in the background is just saying hi. Whereas Reckless is going to be able to hold onto that top tower, and the mid is still not being pushed. So we're having this thing where you expect the late game carry and late game support focus to be at least a little bit slower in terms of taking the pushing advantages, the team that runs that comp there anyway. But instead, it's actually the late games that have taken the early game advantage, spelling maybe some signs for the future.
Hello, Spuddington's cat. How's it going? So, yeah, what I'm thinking about right now is the fact that Renekton and Jarvan have taken the bottom turret might be a good thing. It depends how hard they pressure the bot lane and how many tools they have to pressure that. In fact, they might swap the top lane to the bot lane now they've taken that tower, and then they could exert some more pressure, because it would make sense just to keep Cook my Sock suppressed so he can't teleport out. Plus his teleport's down for now because he tried to escape with it. So actually that guy buys them like a source, like window of opportunity where they can actually just leave the lane and then maybe siege down mid and build up some momentum. And if they do that, they'll completely shut down Dignitas' roaming capability. Yes, they'll be pushing closer, but by removing some of that map presence, it might hurt them in the long run.
Well, we'll see how this works out, and I should probably clarify for the ladies and gentlemen watching the stream. Dig UK are the ones who paused this game, and they said it's because their TeamSpeak server is lagging, so it's a little bit unfortunate there, and I'm sure if it really came to it, we could find them another server if that is completely necessary. Hopefully shouldn't take too long. It says 15 more seconds, so we'll see. We'll see if they manage to get that particular issue fixed, but TeamSpeak servers are... well, actually no, to be fair, they're not usually unreliable.
Yeah, they can be time to time, but it doesn't usually take too long to set them back up again, and in fact, it was only about 30 seconds, so going back into the game, nothing really of value lost. You walk down the bot lane, probably will have to recall. He's on pretty low HP. In fact, he's popping health potions, signifying he's going to stay in lane. The fact that duped into the brush, he might literally just stay there until Twisted Fate comes back in, wait for the wave to push out, and look for the kill. This is interesting because you just don't expect people in competitive play to do this. You expect it from solo queue at level 10. And now Youngbot comes in. They might pick up the kill once again. Slice and Dice comes out. Shook still following up with the auto attacks. Will it actually be enough though? In fact it does. Calculates the red damage perfectly. Level 10 tactics for the win.
That's one of the real problems if you do this strategy where you move Twisted Fate from the mid lane where he doesn't want to be up against, you know, this kind of a lane, up against Renekton without that early advantage, which he missed because he messed up his gold card. He's just too squishy and too lacking escapes to really survive against them, and well, he'll be behind as a result. So pretty much when he teleports in, if he goes for a gank, if he tries to make a play, he's just going to be a big old stun card, and that'll be about it. His damage is going to really suffer, having gone 0-3 in the early game and being forced to itemize in a way that Twisted Fate does not normally want to do so. Seeker's Arm Guard is fine, yes, as long as it's a good item, but Doran's Shield, not so great, and that flask for that early game sustain, which hasn't even, well, I mean, it's helped him, but it hasn't really been useful enough to keep him from feeding.
Yeah, and the swap up as well, because you could see why they did it. Putting Lissandra top and then having Twisted Fate bottom, expecting Copenhagen Wolves not to go for the swap up themselves, so he would have been 1v2 laning and he could have just cleared out the waves with wildcards. You could see what they were shooting for, but the fact that they went for the swap up and then didn't swap up themselves again, they just stayed on the lanes, and you can see they were just kind of buckling in with you know, the pick of Doran's Shield. Meanwhile, top lane Youngbuck has swapped up, trading off against Nitric very well indeed. Ring of Frost comes out, keeps himself safe, but it shows Renekton's trading power against pretty much everyone on this map right now is essentially he's going to win.
Well, that's classic Youngbuck Renekton. I mean, a lot of people critique Youngbuck because of his history with various different teams, but one thing you absolutely cannot fault him on is his Renekton play. He is a really good player for Renekton, and he makes it work almost every single game, and if he gets off the ground ahead of time, he is the guy that goes in 1v2, 1v3, and actually ends up winning the fight anyway, just because he knows exactly how much damage he does, he knows exactly how mobile he is, and he knows exactly how much damage he can take, setting up his team extremely well there. But Cook My Sock, Twisted Fate trapped in this top lane, fortunately has the wave clear. He should be able to at least hold his tower for now.
Yeah, I usually see top lane as kind of like the sleeper lane when it comes to people making plays, because there's less people in top lane who you think, wow, they're a really good top laner, and they can carry the game 1 versus 5. So I think it's more of like a sleeper lane. But when you do get a good top laner, because you don't really look at it, people don't ban out those champions. Because you don't typically see too many people banning out Renekton against Youngbuck, that can really hurt them, because Youngbuck's Renekton, as you said, is spectacular. So I think maybe next time it might warrant a ban, but it's not what's completely won out the game so far. It's been Shook on the Jarvan. Shook's early game presence has always been strong, but I also think they kind of outpicked Dignitas a little bit, along with the swap up they had in the early game. As we highlighted before, a Twisted Fate going into the wrong type of matchup really hurt Dig. Now they don't have the roaming potential that they did before. They're looking for the kill onto Kaltar though. He's going to pop the Spirit Rush. Shook coming in looking to see if he could re-engage. Have the Cataclysm, but 2 versus 3. Kaltar doesn't have the same sort of damage he would in a 1 versus 1 lane.
Worth noting that the Dig UK has some very strong sieging potential here with the Caitlyn, who's gone for that early Bloodthirster. They've got Zyra, but that's not going to help them if he gets caught out like that. Samway's taking a ton of damage. The Bloodthirster will get him to sustain up, but he has to have something to hit. And Youngbuck is heading down. Dig UK are heading back to base to kind of lick their wounds. But they have a lot of sieging potential. They have a lot of potential to catch someone out with the Grasping Roots if they're at a tower and poking it with Caitlyn. You know, Grasping Roots lands, and you've got the stun card, you've got the Lissandra CC, and if people are trying to get aggressive, they've got decent escapes to get themselves away, and they've got decent abilities to punish people that are running directly at you. You've got things like the Blades of, whatever they're called, Aatrox's E, and indeed Grasping Roots, the wild cards and the Piltovers, all the rest of that malarkey. But Nitrix could be getting caught here.
Yeah, oh god, uses the glacial path, and actually when he lands, Reckless pins him against the wall. Frozen Tomb comes out, delaying the inevitable more than anything. Picks up the kill, actually burns a big ultimate as well as the flash, so disrupting the initiation potential. While Dignitas will have good disengage in the form of Zyra, as you've mentioned, and also Blades of Torment, pretty decent. Just looking for the kill onto Yero, forces the flash and just forcing summoners across the board. And while they have decent seeking potential, right now, Wolves could probably just break that siege incredibly easily with a 4-0 Jarvan.
Although Twisted Fate is going to teleport into the middle. Cook My Sock jumping in ham mode. He will take out Cowtard, and now Impaler looking maybe for someone else, but actually deciding against it. But in so doing, they have to take a pushing advantage because Renekton will take this top tower if they're not careful. And now Impaler getting no close, but Shook will get knocked up. No, he won't. What? That looked a bit odd.
It wasn't quite in the middle. It was actually just about the side, I think. So Young doesn't quite take the top turret, but at least puts down some pressure. And with essentially all the big ultimates being exerted from Dignitas, not going to have that for the next fight, but Youngblood might find himself caught. Dominus pop, he might pick up a kill in return. Shock comes in with the dunk, lands the kill onto Zyra, now trading off with Impaler. He does have his passive. Samwise still laying down the pain. Headshot picks up a kill. Reckless now comes onto the scene. Impaler drops low, Darklight comes up. Reckless, he does have the flash if he wants to burn it, but doesn't actually want to follow up too far, just in the fear that Twisted Fate might be around the corner with a stun card. 1-for-1 trade, not too bad for Dig.
Yeah, classic example though of Copenhagen Wolves, and indeed Young Bucks specifically, his tendency to go in potentially bad situations, but situations that could also have worked out very much in their favor. And this in fact has probably worked out in their favor, because Copenhagen Wolves will take down this mid turret. Nitrix shoving down the top, but he's not going to take that down. Full HP, Cowtard heading up, and indeed he should be careful not to overstay. Reckless and Nami going to be heading down to that bottom lane to farm that out, and Dig UK back on their heels once again. Copenhagen Wolves building up more and more gold advantage as time goes by.
Yeah, and plus it's going to be harder and harder when they hit the team fight stage, and you can see why they picked up the Twisted Fate as well. Not only for the security in the early game laning phase, but because they don't want to be going head on in a team fight. In a team fight, their team fight is considerably weaker than Wolves, even if it was just like if you didn't take skill into account and mechanical presence from Wolves. So in a straight-on fight with Twisted Fate, you can't make that happen. His team fighting presence is very weak, so they've looked for the split pushing. And right now, with Twisted Fate being so far behind, he can't split push effectively, and they have a great duelist in the form of Renekton to stop him.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate, but they do still have some mechanics. I mean, Twisted Fate, yes, he isn't going to be able to split push as well as he would like. He's not going to be able to, you know, say to Reckless if he comes to stop him, I'm just going to kill you one-on-one. but he can still clear waves faster than almost any other character in the game, and so long as he uses that teleport effectively, they won't be able to pin him down very easily. But as you say, difficult to do, and if he slips up, he's going to die. And if he gets caught, in fact, if Impaler gets caught, this could be bad for him. But trying to clear out that ward, it's the support bait.
Yeah. It's basically right now from Dignitas, they need to play the roaming phase perfectly, in the sense that they never get caught and they always get picks themselves. If they do that, then they can potentially teamfight and they can potentially get Twisted Fate ahead. They're actually trying to contest them over the Dragon, which isn't there right now, but they're actually moving on to their own blue buff. Shook, of course, looking for this invade. Nitrix actually gets charmed as he comes in with the Glacial Path. Actually throws down the Frozen 2 out onto Shook. Kaltar dipping around the side. Youngbuck now coming into the fight, and Limited might get picked up. Ace the Hole comes out. Kaltar blocks it. Soundwise flashing out into the brush, cutting the vision. And Nitrix still on the front line. Flash over the wall by Reckless. Now on the front lines himself. Barrier has been popped. Triple kill comes out. Soundwise is the last person standing. Can they connect the stun? Doesn't quite happen. But a triple kill for Reckless. This is going from bad to worse.
Oh no, that's just not what you want at this stage indeed. Reckless picking up that triple kill there, nearly a quadra, but he basically had a very, very good damage judgment at the end there, because you know the thing you are taught when you say to someone, how do I play AD carry? The other guy is going to say, right, first things first. If he's a good player, if he's Bronze League, he'll say, you go for their carry and you kill them because you have the highest DPS.
You focus AD carry.
Yes. Why no one focus AD carry? But when you hit like silver and gold area, you're like, actually, maybe because I'm incredibly squishy, I'll stay back and I'll just hit the people that are really tanky trying to dive me and just back away. But what Reckless did there was he went back to basics, because he was aware they'd already used most of their damage cooldowns. He was aware they literally couldn't kill him, even though he was very squishy. So he was perfectly willing to flash in, jump in, just face tank the enemy's very meager damage, because it meant I can DPS harder. GG.
Yeah, it's just damage calculation, and we've spoken about this a lot, and it's something I'm really bad at. But these players know exactly how much damage they can both take and deal, and that's a very difficult skill to do. Knowing how much damage you can both deal with a certain amount of items at a certain point in the game is very hard, because you have to do it on the fly, and it's that split decision making during a team fight. Some people kind of have a knack for it. They obviously don't do like the damage calculation on the fly, bring out a calculator, but Youngbuck looking for the kill onto Nitrix. He's actually surrounded him, but with Impaler coming top, we'll see if he can potentially 1v2. Dominus has popped. He's very sighted onto Nitrix. See if he can pick up the kill. I'm surprised he hasn't just returned onto Impaler, but with now Shook coming up, 2v2, and Ari coming in from the side before Dignitas can react. This might be the sacrificial lamb in the form of Impaler, but Cooked by Slackmail teleporting in straight into the Cataclysm, locks himself up, and then Ace in the Hole comes across, only really scratching Ari, 3 for 0. That was literally 1-by-1 trickle in.
Bizarre decision making there by Dignitas UK. You had Cook My Sock, who had full vision. He actually waited 1 or 2 seconds after popping ultimate. He knew where everyone was when he jumped in, but he still jumped in only to stun Card Renekton, who is infinitely too tanky to die to that, and then just died himself, achieving very, very little. Nitrix could have run, could have saved himself. Didn't. They died. It was essentially 2 more people than needed to die, and even getting caught in that fight in the first place was probably quite unnecessary, given that they should have known not to even try and take down Youngbuck, because, I mean, how much health does he have right now? What, 3,000 probably at this point? Nearly?
Yeah, right now it looks like Dig are just buckling. Huge momentum from Wolves, 5-1, we've seen this so often from them as well. And Dignitas, if they get ahead, yes, we said they could have a good early game scale into the mid game where they're potentially weaker. But because they haven't done that, and Wolves have the security in late game, plus Reckless is getting horribly, horribly fed, Dignitas, they either need to get an amazing pick and pull off the most clutch Baron in the world, or just concede the game, collect their thoughts and go into the next one. This is of course a best of 5.
And we need to start thinking about what they can do to try and win. If this does go the way it looks like it's going in Copenhagen Wolves' favour, what were the lessons they can take from this game as to what to do about the next one? Because it just didn't work out. But in many ways, I think their strategy was actually not that bad. They just kind of got outplayed in that early game. Stuff like the Cook My Sock getting camped in that bottom lane, getting caught out by the brush camp, getting caught out by that counter gank from Shook early on. That kind of thing, if that had gone the other way, if Dig UK had been the ones to keep, actually, I'm going to, you know, land the stun card at the start, get that kill early. Do you think this could have gone differently simply by virtue of having a Twisted Fate who was able to roam effectively? This could be bad though.
Yeah, I'll answer that question in a second, making sure that no one gets caught. Wow, Matrix out of the way of the charm. It actually looked that at least could have hit someone there, but either way, hitboxes, how do they work? Unlimited clearing this out. And to answer your question, I'm not sure if it could have scaled off purely because of that gank, but that was probably one of the linchpins of this game, one of the pivotal moments, because had Twisted Fate gotten the kill right there, hell, if he had gotten the double kill, they could have actually snowballed that, because they'd have a duelist, they could have had someone who could split push and stop the momentum, and in fact gain momentum themselves. So yeah, I think I didn't dislike their picks. I think I agree with you in the sense that they picked up the right composition to deal with Copenhagen Wolves, in the sense they were going for the early game and then they could snowball from there. I think it was decision making in the first couple minutes where they put Twisted Fate versus Renekton because they went with the swap up with Reckless, which honestly they probably should have read the fact that they generally do go for these swap ups. Copenhagen Wolves waiting around the Baron area looking for a pick on someone before they can take it. Good destiny actually, just to reveal them. That was very important. Means you can carry on split pushing bot lane. 1 tower return, not too bad, but 10k ahead, they're going to need more than that. So I think they might need to do something similar next time. Just make different decisions in the early game.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting their level 1 fight maybe left a little bit to be desired. And actually Young Buck is heading down here. Will he catch out Cook My Sock? No, he will not. I thought they were going to collapse on him, but choosing instead not to bother. Couldn't get there before the 7 seconds of recall was done, or was it 8 seconds? But regardless, yeah, actually, as I was mentioning, the level 1 fight, they didn't. Dig UK, you may recall the brush between Wraiths, that kind of line brush there, next to Wraiths, they actually pink warded there, but the ward that they had passed over, that Copenhagen Wolves saw them on, was actually the one on the corner of that red buff area. So they could easily have, if they had spotted out that ward, they would have known what they were up against. And I think it may have been because Copenhagen Wolves knew exactly what the matchups were going to be. Nitrix actually going in on Unlimited. Frozen Tomb comes down and Shook is coming in from the side. Nitrix gets knocked back, but should be okay here. Impaler may look to chase this, but is not going to do so. So nice little pick there. But yeah, that level 1 fight, had they been able to simultaneously get more vision for themselves without being spotted out, that might have been good. Or at least if they had known that they had been spotted out during that level 1 fight.
Yeah, and the disheartening thing from Dignitas is if they don't get a pick on like Caltod or Reckless, they can't do anything with it. They just disrupted the support. And one pick, say in the mid game and it was an even game, they could force a team fight off the back of it. But they're so far behind, a pick is literally a drop in the ocean. Impaler looking for the steal, doesn't get it, Shook outsmites him, he's a level ahead anyway. Young Puck, he gets the stun off into Impaler, follows up as well. Not convinced they can fully pick up the kill. This might be a team fight they could win if they collapse upon them, but they're just too scared because they lack the vision in the enemy jungle. They can't afford to put those wards that deep. We saw what happened even at 2 Unlimited when they were ahead. So right now, Dignitas' play is to try and get more picks and not expend too many ultimates when they do.
Yeah, and it's worth noting right now that Young Buck is hitting kind of, this is basically peak Renekton right now. He is unbelievably tanky, unbelievably difficult to kill, and Impaler getting away with his life there. But Renekton is putting out, if he pops his Dominus, 140 magic damage per second around himself, between the Sunfire Cape and his ultimate there. So he's actually putting out a very significant chunk of that kind of damage, and this just means that if he gets into that 2-on-1 situation, if he engages that fight, with Destiny being popped, he is just unbelievably difficult to kill while simultaneously exerting so much pressure. I don't think Dig UK have any choice but to go in here, but it looks like they're going to back off. Baron is going down very, very low. They may just look for the steal here. Impaler gets it. Will, in fact, then engage the fight. Shook takes a lot of damage. Young Buck on the back line. Yero going to get chased out. Impaler going down very, very low. Passive gets popped and Deathfire picks up Nitrix. Impaler will go down and Reckless will not. But in the meantime, Young Buck is kind of just rampaging around wherever he pleases. But nice steal on the Baron. A couple of members still survived, and the tidal wave comes across looking for Samwise. They won't get it. Yeah, you know, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
You can hear Spuddington's mind working.
Yeah, that was essentially the cogs. But do you think that was worth it, Pulse?
Well, Baron, aka the Frozone, but 3 kills for the Baron. It was worth it because, well, they needed it to stay in the game. And having Baron buff and Samwise, and also I think Cook My Sock still has it. Yes, he does. So I think that's good because having it on both of those carries in the next team fight will help a lot. It's a shame that Ace the Hole didn't do enough to take down Reckless. It was very, very close, and had they picked up that kill, it would have been 100% worth it, because they might have been able to get like a tower off the back of it, maybe even an inner turret with Caitlyn still up. But with Reckless still on the scene, they couldn't actually do that. Picking up the Baron has prolonged the game, and has actually given them the chance maybe to come back. And it's a very very maybe, because it will be so hard for them to come into it. But the Baron hasn't entered the game. That's a good thing.
It's also fortunate in the respect that now they can afford to just kind of stall out. They've taken away most of their own buffs, and as long as they don't get caught on the way out by the bubble there. Shook also looking for it, but Impaler taking a bit of poke. So long as they don't get sieged out now, and so long as they don't lose any inhib towers, that means they can just stall, clear the creep waves, and extend the game even further. And the goal difference will get less significant as time goes by, simply by virtue of time passing. The amount of gold in the game increases, so the difference, which is flat, will just decrease. Most of the objectives aren't available, so as a result, Copenhagen Wolves will, you know, they'll stay ahead, and they'll stay significantly ahead, and if they can siege effectively, then all this is irrelevant. But it does give Dig UK that little bit of hope, that glimmer of hope that maybe they can get something done here if they can just prolong, survive, and not get sieged out, not get caught out like Samwise.
But now Reckless actually catches Cook My Sock. He's potentially able to be taken out himself, but great Strangleforce locked up the entire lineup of Dignitas. With Countdown coming in from beside, with Reckless cannot be stopped. Another kill comes out with all the deception. Cook My Sock dropping low, and Shook follows up. This is just the ace, and that's surely the game. GG, well played. There's nothing they could do.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate there, but Copenhagen Wolves going to be taking the game. Surrender vote coming in from Dig UK. We'll see if Dig UK can lick their wounds, come up with a strategy for how to beat this, but it may just require some slightly better early decision making, predicting the moves of Copenhagen Wolves a little bit better in that early game, and they might have had a chance. So we'll see what happens. We'll get the players back into the lobby as soon as we can, and sorry Bass, I removed you from the channel because your microphone was echoing, but regardless, we'll see you in just a minute. Hold on to your seats.